writer Nathan Hill may seem like an overnight success. His first book, The Knicks, made all the top bestseller lists, but this Naples-based author has been at it for years. When you see your book in print, what goes through your mind? You know, so many people look at things on e-readers, but what's it like to actually see and feel it in print?
The first time I got a collection of them in the mail, you know, like about a month before they came out, and I've been waiting for that moment for about 10 years. So it was a pretty special moment. It was I don't know, there's something very tactile. Like, I love the feel of a book, you know. So that it had my name on it was pretty cool. I love seeing it. The cover is beautiful. The designer Oliver Munday did an amazing job with it. So it's whenever I spot it in an airport bookstore, you know, walking by, I'm pretty thrilled.
It is a good looking book,
Yeah.
and since I read it on an e-reader, I was surprised at how big it was when I saw it in real life, though.
Yeah, the digital copy weighs substantially less.
That's very true. You know, I wanted to ask you though, when you look at the similarities between you and the main character Samuel, was that intentional? Did you pour part of yourself into him?
Yeah, I think what, you know, myself, and a lot of other fiction writers do, is we take a fictional character and then sort of wrap them around with details from maybe our lives or the lives of our friends that we steal, you know, or our parents or siblings. And so we wrap them in a lot of autobiography. So Samuel shares some traits with me. He is an English professor. I was an English professor for 9 years. He teaches writing. I taught writing, but
From the Midwest, aren't you?
I'm from the Midwest, so is he. But there are certain, you know, essential differences. He's very sour about his job. He feels like it's a dead-end job, and he really resents his students. I actually like teaching, and hopefully some universities out there will believe that I really do and won't have read the book and think that I hate it, because Samuel does. But I like it a lot, but that doesn't make for very good drama. So I made him quite sour.
I wonder, because I think, wasn't he bitter a little bit because he had some early success that he was not able to replicate?
Yeah, so he, 10 years prior, signed a book contract for a ridiculous amount of money and then never actually wrote the book. And so 10 years later, he's blocked, and he's teaching students about Hamlet and like an intro to lit class, and he thinks he's better than that.
Is that everyone's fear, though, that you have one piece of success? You write something, it does well, you get some acclaim, and then you get writer's block?
No, I think the fear is never writing the first thing at all. You know, that was my fear for a long time. The book took 10 years to write, and of course there were times early on when I thought, there's no way I'm ever going to be able to finish this. There's no way.
And now once you got it out there in print, it was very well received. Is that humbling to see some of the publications and people have such great praise for your book?
A lot of great books are published every year, and not every book finds its audience right away, and so you can't have big expectations, and I didn't. So the fact that so many people are saying nice things about it is really sort of amazing and surprising.
What are some of the accolades that it got were maybe the most meaningful for you as a reader, that you really put great value into some of these distinctions?
The first blurb I got, and if anybody doesn't know, a blurb is when you send the manuscript, before it's published, you send the manuscript to another writer to see if they'll endorse it. I don't know, I'd been teaching for a long time and I didn't know a lot of writers, you know, so the first blurb we got from John Irving, who was an early hero of mine, kind of a literary idol of mine. And he read the book and really loved it. And he gave me the first blurb, and he's been a champion of the book ever since.
And I imagine one of the big questions that people might ask you in a query is one of the obvious about what the Knicks is.
Yeah, sure. The Knicks is the name of a spirit from Norwegian folklore that is usually depicted as a sort of ugly troll type thing, but it's a shapeshifter, and sometimes it'll appear to children as a beautiful white horse, and it'll tempt them to climb aboard, and if they do, it'll run them into the water and drown them. And it's
kind of the catalyst too.
Yeah,
of what you love.
One of those stories you tell kids, I guess. It seemed appropriate as a title because I realized that for the kids in the story, when they got their own horse, it must have been the coolest thing that ever happened to them, you know, and they must have been so proud of it. And then, of course, tragedy strikes. And the moral of the story seemed to me that sometimes the things you want the most or the things you love the most can ultimately hurt you the worst. And that's something that's happening to a lot of the characters in the novel that they're undermined by the very things that mean the most to them.
What's life been like since you had that great reception? You said your world really has turned upside down with travel and such.
Yeah, I was living in pleasant obscurity for 10 years writing this book, and quite a homebody. And now I've been on the road for about 6 months. The hardcover came out in the U.S. and I toured there. For a couple months. The translations came out in Germany and Holland, so I was over there. It came out in the UK and Australia, so I was there. I've got book festivals that I've gone to, and I'm about to go on the paperback tour in a couple months, and then to France and Italy, I believe. So it's going to end up being a good 12 to 15 months of touring for the book once it's all said and done.
What I appreciated, I think, most about your book was reading some of your pop culture observations.
Yeah.
What do you think about reading today, and where does that fit in?
You know, I used to talk to my students about this a lot. When I taught university, I would teach first-year writing classes. And so I'd be teaching students from all different disciplines, finance, accounting, you know, engineering. And they would look at me like, why do I have to read books? And I needed to have a good answer for that question, because it's a valid question. Like, what is literature going to do for me? I mean, for me, I love the kind of the lyrical beauty of a sentence, but I can't tell an engineering major to love the lyrical beauty of a sentence. There has to be something else there. And so the answer I ended up coming up with was based weirdly on a lot of neuroscience. There's this study that was published in Science in 2013 that said that one of the best ways you can prepare for a job interview is reading good literature, because that thing that you do when you're reading a good book, where you interpret behavior and you try to figure out what's going to happen and where this character is coming from and what that character's motivations are, is exactly what you do in an office or in a job interview. And so you get to practice in a kind of virtual reality when you're reading a novel. And that's what I ended up telling a lot of my students, that reading a great book is like virtual reality for real life.
Very interesting. Now, I had not thought of that at all. What do you think about now how most people write? You know, you have so many people texting and just kind of bastardizing the language or using emojis instead of words. Do you think that we're diluting the value of writing well?
I don't, actually. I think it's kind of great. I take advantage of it, actually, in the Knicks. I have a college student character named Laura in the Knicks who, of course, texts and uses social media. And in some ways, like, an emoji can capture something that one word cannot. You know, it captures a certain emotion. And so in some ways, I think it adds texture and interest to the language.
Do you have any hopes, concerns, any expectations of kids now and what their experience is going to be like reading?
Look, kids love to read, and you know, as soon as they can do it, they're gobbling it up. My nieces and nephews do it all the time. The best thing that we can do is just kind of get out of their way. If I worry about anything, I worry about schools being a little too hard and like, you have to read this, and beating the joy of reading out of kids. I know that when I was little, there was a period where I was reading a lot of books that just seemed to have nothing to do with me, and I kind of fell out of reading as a habit for a long time until I discovered that there was a whole literature out there that I could connect with, and that kind of sparked it again. So I think we need to be mindful. Of course, we should be teaching our students about the classics, but at the same time, we can't forget that one of the primary reasons to read is because it's fun.